Thank you all for joining us on the second interview for ILD Middle East award winners. And today we have Studio Lumen with us. So we're going to be chatting with Vinod Pillai and Siddharth Mathur, and we're going to be discussing the project Sheikh Nona, which is the winner of this year's Light Middle East Award. So thank you guys for being with us today. I'm going to go through a little bit of the standard stuff that I have to say, and then we'll get into the interview right away. First of all, I want to remind our audience that this webinar is being recorded and will be available via the IALD YouTube channel very soon. If you want to share any questions with our guests, make sure that you use the Q&A section and we will answer your questions towards the end of the interview. For those of you who don't know who we are, the IALD is the International Association of Lighting Designers, and we focus on promoting the importance of lighting design in the construction industry and all around the world. And if you are interested in becoming a member, you can visit our website, www.iald.org, or you can email us at middleeast@iald.me. So with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guests today. We're going to start with Vinod. He is the design director at Studio Lumen. His introduction to lighting design was incidental while working as an architect. For him, the mission has always been the creative integration of light and shade to complement the architecture. His initial journey with lighting led him to establish a lighting design firm in India. This was followed by stints with blue chip manufacturers in Australia and the Middle East, which he says holstered his technical and commercial knowledge. Over the last decade, Vinod's portfolio as a lighting leader at LW and now design director at Studio Lumen has expanded greatly, including high-end hospitality, public realm, spiritual, art galleries, workplace, and retail projects. Vinod believes that every space has a story to tell, and he draws inspiration from this to create a contextual reference to his projects. His style is highly collaborative, and he believes light cannot be treated in isolation. Now, Siddharth, he is the managing partner at Studio Lumen. Having inherited an artistic flair and an exquisite sense of aesthetics from his early childhood, he found himself immersed in architecture and light at an early age. A passion for light and specifically how it interacts with space led him to study further and take up lighting design as a profession. Studio Lumen, the firm he currently leads, is a melting pot for creativity brought about by a team from diverse backgrounds. Their work on projects in the Middle East, Europe, Africa, and the Indian subcontinent are a testament to their strong design philosophy. The concept of light, not luminaires, is adhered to in all their projects. And Siddharth very famously says that we are in an effect-based lighting business and do not pursue only technical compliance. So welcome to both of you to this space, and thank you for giving us the time to chat about this
Maria.
project. Yes. All
I think
right.
another bit of trivia is that all three of us studied at the University of Sydney. So a big shout out to Sydney University here as well.
Yay, yes,
Quite a
that's
moment.
true. We're all alumni. You are totally right. That's awesome. Well,
That's
guys,
true.
let's get into this interview because I'm sure our audience will like to find out how this project became an award-winning project. So if you guys want to share the screen, it's open to you at any point. But let's start with a very simple question. Why don't you give us an introduction to the project, tell us a little bit about the concept behind it, and what is interesting about this project? What led you to be involved with the design?
Yeah, I mean, I think, thanks, Maria. Thanks for the introduction. And regarding Sheikh Nona, I think it's best expressed visually. I mean, obviously, what we deal with is a visual realm. So I think it's best expressed through visuals to start with, and then we can elaborate on that. If you would allow me to share the screen. All right, so hopefully you can see the screen. So I'll start with, so Sheikh Nona is, so the idea of Sheikh Nona was it kind of is reminiscent of what you would find in Italy. Chic Nona. Nona means grandma, and the idea is to bring in the flavor of home in Dubai. That's the whole idea there, with style, of course. That's why Chic Nona. And the place is so how the interior designers want to approach the space, and what and the brief that was given to us as well was that the space had to as you enter the space, it is kind of has got while the visuals obviously look quite grand, the idea is that some of the details and some of the details that have gone into kind of creating that space are very reminiscent of a residential building or residential house in Italy, and the seamless spaces that is kind of going in and outside, and it just is kind of reminiscent of what you would find in Italy. The decor itself kind of takes a lot from what you would find in a grand Italian home, and what as lighting designers, what we had to bring forth was all of these ideas, of course. And the garden itself, the olive garden itself, was interesting because it is the Chic Nona itself is located in the bustling area of the IFC. But what you don't get to see within the ground floor, whilst you're in the ground floor, is not you don't get to see the busy streets, and you kind of can enjoy and savor the moment that you are in. But that leads us to other spaces as well. Like there's a very interesting scenario about this Chic Nona is that all of this is in one open plan, but then you've got zones within them, which was a bit challenging for us lighting wise as well. Is that you had to create different zones within an open plan, and also give each of those spaces its identity, whether it be the lounge as you enter, the welcome lounge as you enter, or whether it be the bar, the welcome bar, and the rest of the show kitchen, the chef's table, so on and so forth, and then the garden itself and the wider restaurant as well. And amongst all of this, you've got a lot of interesting points of interest, like the show kitchen and the chef's table, of course, is one of them. And then you've got this flight of stairs, which allows you to also enjoy that moment where you are actually looking at probably, arguably, the tallest wine cellar in Dubai. It kind of spans up, I think, 2.5 floors, and is quite an eye-catching moment as well as you enter as well. So that's what you get to see actually as you go up to the upper floors. Upper floors is a little bit different. It allows you a view to the grander city view, and the whole mood changes as well. So what was kind of a more let's say a subtle residential kind of a setup in the ground floor kind of turns into a bit of a razzmatazzy kind of a ambience in the upper floor with a cigar room in one corner, and then you've got the jazz bar, which is kind of the wider floor actually. And what you see over there is actually the jazz bar behind the very stylized bar and the back bar. And you can see on the ceiling as well that we've got some entertainment lighting that goes on as well when the show is on. And the wine cellar, of course, as you can see over there. And again, that's another view of the restaurant itself, and the level to which how we went about detailing the whole thing was that we tried to keep it all low level because we're talking about higher ceilings over here. So we're trying to keep it absolutely well integrated. Lighting is well integrated into the details, having some table lamps, allowing for that low level and very subtle lighting. And as you can see, as well as that, a lot of care has gone into integrating all the lighting into all the different details that we have over there. So that kind of sums up what Chic Nona is all about. There are heaps of other visuals that we would have loved to show, but this is what it is for now.
Interesting. So, Siddharth, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how the lighting played an important role in this project.
Like Vinod mentioned, this is a high-end dining venue that's right smack in the middle of DIFC. So one of the things that we were very concerned about and was quite a challenge was how do you create that visual sense of relief as the guest walks into the restaurant, because this is all about a very homely experience, understated luxury, a very sophisticated design aesthetic, whereas what one is actually traversing through the IFC is something that is very trendy, buzzy, lively, right? And then you walk through the doors and come into the restaurant and almost feel that sense of visual relief. And how do you take that emotion and accentuate that, because that is desirable, that is what you want in this. You want to feel like you've arrived in a place that's quite understated and subdued, but still create a balance of all of the different layers of lighting, accent lighting, ambient lighting. Vinod spoke about, it being an open space, yet having those different zones, and really bringing in that level of intimacy. And I think that has been one of the key successes of this project, is that we were able to create that. We were able to create that impression. So I think it was both a challenge, and then I feel that it has been reasonably met as well.
I would agree. I mean, you can tell that, and again, we look at it from the point of view of the images, but it does seem like there's a certain level of darkness in the space that will give you this very unique and different ambience from any other area or space or restaurant, even in that in that area of Dubai, right? So Vinod, in your words, what would you say was one of the most important keys of the lighting design that was proposed for the restaurant?
I mean, look, like I said, I mean, the challenge of, I mean, to imagine that a customer would walk in and probably be, because that the place has a lot to offer, and so it was quite important that even if you are probably having a dinner in the ground floor, which is kind of a bit of a more of a residential kind of an idea, but you don't want to miss a beat when you are actually up there in the entertainment zone as well. So it was quite, whilst it was quite important to make that distinction. So that, and again, in the ground floor, like I said, most of the spaces are they're not partitioned, they are like kind of flowing from one to the other kind of an idea. So it was quite important for that zoning to happen. The feature, I would say, one thing that connected connected the whole place was that tall wine cellar. And anybody walking into that space, I mean, rest assured, let's put it this way. I mean, I just like said before this webinar, was I think last week, Sheikh Nona was awarded the to arguably having the best wine selection in Dubai. So anybody walking into that space knows his or her wine. And it's important that it's not only important that you have a tall wine cellar, boast of it being about 2.5 floors up there, but it's important that they also see those labels and understand, okay, this is where I need to be, kind of an idea. So it was quite critical how we went about lighting that up. To be honest, that was partly in our scope as well, because we had to coordinate with the wine cellar specialists back in Italy, because it had to be brought from there. And that was, and this we're talking about is a 2.5 floor feature, which kind of is a very celebrated wall in that whole space. So it was a very tricky one, but I think we were able to pull it off again collectively with the guys we collaborated with as well.
Right. And was there any mock-up done before finalizing the whole installation of the wine cellar? How did that work out?
So the issue was part of it. A good part of this design also happened during the COVID times. So a lot of our interaction with the guys in Italy was obviously was online, and then the kitchen specialists were obviously in Dubai, and then they did organize a small area where we could actually see what the lighting would be like and take it from there. So yeah, mock-up was done partially, but the challenge was always once it comes in and 2.5 floors, and it's not an easy gig to pull off by seeing a small couple of windows for mock-up and then seeing this whole thing coming up there.
Of course.
And I think it's not
Yeah.
just the mock-up of the wine cellar. I think there were the series of mock-ups which were done for most of the installations. It's quite important to also understand that that whole
Correct.
design scheme is actually sum of all of those parts that went together.
What other areas did you have to mock up? But were there others?
No,
I
even
mean,
simple
like
installations like sorry, go
the
ahead.
bar count. Sorry, the bar counter and the gantry about it as well. I mean, it was designed with fluted glass, so it was very important that whilst we had got the lighting in it, the fluted glass didn't throw distracting shadows onto the ceiling and so on and so forth. And then there was this interesting, probably not in one of these photographs, but to add to the resi feel, what they did was over the ceiling ledges, they had these photographs that were there, like you would see in a home, like not necessarily very commercially suspended from the ceiling. It was like just ledges that were that could actually have some accessories and artworks going on top of it as well. It was the ceiling that we were looking at was kind of a double volume space, so it was not easy to just go up there and have the tracks hit or any kind of spotlight hit those things. So what we did is we kind of hid mini tracks within the ledges and kind of uplit them. So as you are seated, you get to see these very well lit, but you wouldn't, unless you go prying like a lighting designer would, you wouldn't find the lighting there.
Good. So this is literally hidden light, which is something that personally I love. I love to enter a space and not know where the light is coming from and just be able to enjoy the space itself, right? And make that possible is actually quite tricky. So that's very interesting what you're saying. It seems like that was one of the challenges that you had. The wine,
One
sorry, go
one
ahead.
the staircase itself. As you would know, I mean, the usual thing to do is to have the LED strip going into the nosing and the same and straight down. And we've got a little bit of I mean, it's a kind of a semi-honed finish, but at the same time, we didn't want those LED strips to be seen again, 2 floors of grand stairs. So all of that was very intricately done. But I must, you got to give credit where it's due, is that BWS contractors were brilliant at it as well. So they were very appreciative of what everyone were doing, including lighting designers. And they were very sensitive to all of those to ensure that everything was done very correctly as well. Perhaps have a little bit more time than usual because of some of the delays that COVID allowed us in a way. But they did a fantastic job as well.
Fantastic. So, Siddharth, would you think or would you say that COVID helped in the coordination of all of these little details?
Well, if you
Could we
put it
thank
this way, then
COVID?
I cannot. Well, I cannot debate that if you put it this way. But let's just say that it gave us a lot more thinking time, than what we are used to in this fast-paced city that we live in. So
Hey,
that
it's a
definitely helped.
positive thing. One positive thing
No,
from
it
COVID.
was.
Yeah,
It
that's
was definitely
fantastic.
very positive.
Did you have to coordinate a lot with the contractor on this or mostly with the interior design team?
I think both equally, and quite a lot of close coordination with the contractors because they needed to understand exactly what we wanted in terms of the installation, in terms of concealing all of that equipment. So that was coordination at a very, very close level that we had with them. And like Vinod
Right.
said, I mean, they were fantastic in the way they put this place together.
Yes,
Look,
coordinating wiring, installation,
yeah,
detailing, all of that. Right.
and the client is quite hands-on as well. I mean, the way they've gone about the way they go about operating the space as well is they're very hands-on, and they were very particular about what they wanted in terms of the look and feel of the space, including lighting. It was good to have that challenge as well at that end, because I can be honest with you, we went there for setting up the place, but some of the areas were already set up to a fantastic setting, and we were like, how do you guys go about that? And then so it was like the client had his own views on certain things, and it was brilliant. So then we took the cue from there on, and we kind of completed the whole place. But It was very important to have that client to start with, and the collaborative nature of the way we work also, in the sense that we didn't every single detail had to be tied in and collaborated with interior designers at the design stage. So yes, interior designers during the design phase, that keeps continuing, of course, to keep the guardianship of the design, but contractors as well, like Sid said. Yeah.
That sounds like a really good relationship between all of the trades, contractor, lighting designer, interior designer, even the engineers probably, I would put them in that bag. It sounds like you had a really good team to work with. So would you agree that that is a very much a key element of making a project not only successful but an award-winning project?
Definitely. I mean, lighting for the matter, any creative work cannot be done in isolation. It is always a teamwork. Lighting for sure, because what we throw light on has to be good. I would say. I mean, there's only so much a lighting designer can do to make a U-turn on something that is not visually appealing. Let's put it that way. So obviously,
Absolutely.
we have to do the right thing to give it its due and give justice to the design. But definitely, it's a very, very collective effort driven by the interior designers to start with, and then we throw in our layers as well. It kind of helps that we also, Sid and I also come from, and in fact, most of our team come from similar backgrounds, that we can speak that language and contribute as well in terms of. I wouldn't say I go as far as saying we can contribute with material and material selection as well at times.
And was the
I
interior
think
designer
that
open to that?
sorry,
Yeah,
just
go
have a
ahead,
small
Cedar.
point.
Yeah.
That collaboration that you spoke about, it definitely is a recipe for a successful project. Award or no award, that's not so important. But I think the prime objective is to successfully achieve the vision, and to be able to achieve that, I think that collaboration is a short
So
recipe for.
then the natural question is, did this project achieve your vision independently of the award?
No, I think it did, yeah.
Vinod?
To
The
me,
award definitely validates it, but we did achieve it.
yeah, in a way. But I'll tell you what. I mean, my what I love about going to site and setting things up, it is unravels sometimes more than what you expected, sometimes less as well. But when that surprises or the surprise is a good one, a pleasant one, then it kind of transcends or goes beyond what you expected of that space as well. I must say, not because it is an award-winning project or anything of that sort. We're not even going there. Shiknona was interesting in that sense that even the zoning that I keep talking about. I mean, although it was put down on paper, we didn't expect it to actually function and work that way. And operationally, it was helping that navigation as well. So I was asked this question during the awards jury. How did you go about the navigation? I mean, I talked about navigation in my, so to say, essay on the awards thing. So I asked us about the navigation. So this was what it was. So the accents and the pools kind of easily, and it was a good experience for us because you can talk theory as much as you want, but to see that in operation is another thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. An image speaks more than 1,000 words, right?
Definitely does.
So Vinod,
Vinod,
I'm going
would
to
you
ask
like
you
to
for
elaborate on other questions that you were asked in the jury?
before you
might be
do that,
helpful for the
Siddharth, can I
participants.
ask you, Vinod? Can I ask you, Vinod? Can you share again the pictures, because we have a couple of new attendees that joined after you shared, and it would be great if they are able to see the images that you showed us right at the beginning of the presentation. So if you don't mind.
So, guys, I won't elaborate now for the benefit of whoever have been on this show so far. I don't want to elaborate on Shiknona and the idea behind it. I'll just run through the images right now.
Yeah, and you can keep us entertained with
I mean,
any other details that you have.
Yeah. I mean, that's beyond. So this is the main. What do you say? The restaurant area in the ground floor. And as you can see, it is kind of a seamless outdoor, indoor, inside kind of a space with the olive garden on the outside. And you get these interesting, the image on the left, you get these interesting vistas, if I may put it that way, of these olive gardens from different nooks within the restaurant as well, which is a very interesting thing. It kind of, while the space is quite, the scale of the space is quite big, these nooks and the vistas kind of bring them down a little bit as well. So kind of breaking it up and making it interesting, because in as a whole, the scale is quite big in the space.
You can
What
tell,
you see on,
definitely. The ceilings are very, very high.
yeah, it is. But as you can also see, is that the interior design is also in such a way that the as you can see on the image on the left hand side, is that the cladding and the renders are in such a manner that it kind of brings down the space as well. So it doesn't take it all the way up. It scales it down a little bit while the space is big. It is also the interior design and the lighting to follow, because we had to define that line to actually get people to see that visual barrier in a way, like perceivably. And what you see on the left is the start of the staircase that goes up 2 floors, and with it, you can see on the backdrop is a wine cellar where you get a better view of that over here. And then, of course, the jazz area with the bar in the front, the feature bar in the front, with the back bar being lit, the integrated lighting going into it, lighting it up. And then, of course, you've got the entertainment lighting at the top, which goes back to for the live shows that would happen there. And again,
And
this is back. Yeah.
Vinod, sorry, let me ask you a question, because I'm curious about something. The decorative
Yeah.
lighting in the entire restaurant, did you have an input on that, or was that mostly picked by the interior designer?
So again, collaborative process, because it is when it comes to decorative lighting, there is a large quotient of it is the look and feel of it, which the interior designers are the custodians of, obviously, because that needs to match in line with whatever they wanted to, whatever story they want to say. The technical aspects of it, to ensure that it doesn't like overwhelm the lighting scheme and is actually a part of it, and is also given its due, is up to us to create. So the biggest challenge, like most lighting designers on the webinar would know, is when it comes to setting it up at the end, you would have that interesting decorative lighting in that corner, which would dim for whatever reason. So those kind of ideas had to be nipped in the bud, and that's why we would involve ourselves very much in that specification process.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's where we are.
So here is my last question to you both, and I will actually remind, before I
Already done?
ask the question, I will remind the audience that you can also ask your questions. You just have to put your questions in the Q&A. And by the way, Vinod, you can keep on talking however you want, and you can give us whatever number of details that you want about the space. I will give you the time for you to say much more. But personally, I only have one more question. And it's a question that I like to use when I'm finishing an interview. I would like to ask of both of you, what is your favorite aspect about this project? It can be something that it's just the result, or something that happened during the design. But I'd definitely like to hear, what was the favorite aspect of the project for both of you? Siddharth, do you
That's
want
the
to start?
difficult question. Difficult
It
question,
is
which you say
difficult.
for
So
the
I'm going to
end.
give you some time to think about it, Vinod.
No, so
Siddharth, tell me.
So my most favorite aspect of this project was actually the final setup. And when we were setting it up, there were, so many different variations that we could actually achieve on site, which were over and above what we had designed for earlier, just in terms of setting and playing in that whole double volume with the intensities, and ramping up levels of each of the lighting layers and seeing how they start interacting with each other. And quite a few of those, I mean, I hadn't envisaged before. I don't know, maybe Vinod must have had a different idea, but so many things we were looking at it for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, it's really that eureka moment that you feel that, wow, light is really powerful. I never knew that we would be able to achieve this, or I never knew that we could do this or do that. And that really was one of the most striking instances.
So what you're saying is you basically were surprised on how the ambience changed just by tuning the light.
Exactly, and how drastically it changed.
Wow. Vinod, did you come up with your favorite aspect? You can tell us more than
No,
one. That's
no,
totally
I
fine.
mean, I think uh, like any F&B project, I mean, why I say F&B particularly is because they are quite fast track, and for that very reason as well, you are thinking on your feet in a way to get that happening. And in most cases in Dubai, you want to hit that, you want to hit that launch date right before the season starts and everything. So there's a lot of pressure on that scenario. And F&B always, and especially when the client is heavily involved in the scenario, it always throws you surprises at the last minute. And as usual, lighting designers are told about that surprise right at the end, and we are supposed to meander through that and make that magic happen. Uh, this project had a share of it as well. I can't. I'm not really telling you anything about any magic moments, but those challenges are a big learning curve all the time as far as we are concerned. And it was also the show kitchen was pretty massive as well in this space, and to keep the chefs happy was also a very important thing, because the color temperature tug of war always happens, and it was very interesting how we have actually mixed three color temperatures in the same area and are still getting a decent result of 2,700 with the general lighting, 2,600 to 2,400 in some of the decoratives, and then we're hitting 3,000 in the show kitchens. And all of that put together still has got that different layers of warmth to it. And it's still a great. And what was pleasing at the other end was the greens that were coming out of the olive gardens as well. So
Right. Yeah, we do have a question in our Q&A. It comes from Anthony, and you actually answered half of it. He was asking, what is the color temperature used in the project? So Anthony, you heard they had three different color temperatures. And the next question Anthony has is, how do you feel about dim to warm on restaurant projects?
dim to warm. Okay, I mean, that is one idea that I struggle to use effectively. Dim to warm. I think it'll be an interesting one, depending on what region you are in, and what mood you want to create, and what time of the night. Let's put it that way. But I think I don't know. I think it is for me. It is still something that I need to explore and try and look into. But it is again horses for courses kind of a thing. There's no blanket statement of that scenario.
Siddharth, how do you feel
I think I have
about
an
dim to warm?
unpopular, yeah, I have an unpopular opinion about dim to warm. What I have
Okay.
felt, we've never successfully used it on a project, I'll be honest, but we've done various tests within our studio to see how it works. And I've found that the color rendition does get altered visually when you dim it and you go into a very warm tone. So I find that a little unsettling, where when you dim down the color temperature, I mean dim down the intensity, the color temperature alters, and that kind of also alters your perception of the finishes around you versus that. So I'm a little hesitant to embrace it fully. Maybe it is a technology that has a lot of promise and just needs a little more R&D before we can actually use it. But with consistency in color temperature and reduction in dimming levels, you don't have that same problem. You don't encounter it. So we are, I think, a bit wary of dim to warm.
We do have another question. Marian, she's asking, did you consider adding in some general or some general or infill light as well for a different scene?
Yeah, we
There's
do
another
have
question
them.
to that.
That's actually a very good question, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the general light. So again, the space is, as you can see, it's pretty open and it's got a lot of daylight ingress as well. But the popular services or the services are quite, it is not actually a daytime venue apart from the brunches that happen during the good season. That's it. So the infill light, considering the volume of the space, we, as you would normally do in a what do you say, an accessible ceiling height in an F&B, you would probably go with adjustable and tiltable lights. Where in this scenario, because we are talking about a double volume space, we didn't have room for that kind of a scenario. So all of the general lighting is actually there in the ceiling and allows for one layer of light. And then we've used lighting in the lower levels to actually keep bringing that accent. And this obviously modulates during the day and in the evening scene as well. So infill lights are there. It was there in the visuals as well. So, but none of them were the typical tiltable or adjustable ones to allow for it to be accenting the tables.
The follow-up to her question was, or does the setting consistently maintain a moody ambience? But I think you have answered that.
No,
Great.
it cannot. We cannot do that because we're talking about an evening scenario, which then transcends into a more quieter evening, with the first floor having a cigar room in one corner, whereas the jazz players are on the other side. So obviously, the mood has. In fact, the challenge was not about setting the mood in one place, going from one to the other. It was about how you would walk in from a cigar room, which is kind of the more darker, moodier space, into a more razzmatazzy space like the jazz corner.
Fantastic. We have another question here. In designing restaurants similar to this, do you suggest adding in some spotlights above the tables too? Or do you prefer the table lamps to serve as task lighting in the tables?
I think I've answered that question in a way. We normally do employ that idea, but again, there's no tailor-made scenario for this. If we are looking at the most important, the key to anything at the end of the day is also not just achieving that wow moment about designing a space, but it's also about looking at how you're going to maintain them and the longevity of it. Because you could have all these adjustable fittings aiming at some point, but what might also happen is that the tables get moved around for a certain guest, and then you have that spotlight hitting the wrong end. So, whilst there is an idea that we employ in a lot of restaurants, not for this one, because the space was different and had to be dealt differently as well.
Fantastic answer. And yes, I agree with you. It's something that you have to consider on a project by project basis. We have one more question. Sky is asking, what was the thinking for entertainment lighting in the restaurant? Was this in your scope? And if so, was there anything you had to consider in this spec? So he's asking about entertainment lighting for the restaurant.
Coming from Sky, yeah, I can imagine that question.
Coming from Sky,
Yeah, I
correct?
know. I'll put a smile to my face, I can tell you that. Thanks, Kai. Vinod, you can answer the question.
Mean, yeah. No, we were to be honest, we were setting up the infrastructure for it. That's what we had to do, because we knew it was going to be. So there was an entertainment specialist who was on this job. So our job was to ensure that the infrastructure was in place, and as any entertainment venue is like, they have rentals that will come into play, and they have an entertainment specialist who kind of curates that. Our job was essentially to ensure that while they had to plug in all of these, there was enough data points and enough power to allow for that scenario there. But having said that, the stage itself is not always occupied for jazz events, and they do not turn on the entertainment lighting all the time. So that jazz stage that you see behind the back bar, of what you probably would have seen in those visuals, is kind of setting the scene as well. So there was a lot of architectural lighting that gone into it to actually allow for that spatial definition that needed over there, and also create a little bit of a drama as well. Yeah, I think to answer Sky's question, our scope was to take care of the architectural lighting when it was not an event, but also allow for that infrastructure when the entertainment lighting come out.
Interesting. All right. Well, if our audience doesn't have any more questions, I'm just going to go ahead and start ending this interview, which, by the way, has been super interesting. Thank you, guys. Do you have any last words for
Oh, good.
the audience?
Totally for that.
Well, believe it or not, we've been here for 47 minutes already. So even though it has been, I hope,
Oh,
a
it's been
very
good.
nice interaction, I feel like time has flown.
No, good.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. No, we've had fun. Thank you, Maria.
No, thank you. Thank you for giving us this very interesting story. I love hearing about, projects and what comes to mind and how you come up with the concept. So I really hope that our audience really likes that as well. And I really want to thank everybody for participating, especially you, Vinod, and you, Siddharth, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule and coming here and talking to us about how, this project became what it is, which is a beautiful space that I would love to go. And so to our audience, what I'm going to say is, again, thank you for participating. I will remind you that we have many more interviews coming. The next one is happening on Monday, the 25th of March at 4 p.m. as well. We're going to be talking with Camila from Glare. She's also a Light Middle East Award winner. And once again, guys, thank you so much. This interview will be posted to the IALD YouTube channel very soon. So keep an eye on our LinkedIn profile and you will find the link right there. Thank you, guys. And
Thanks, Maria.
I wish you
Thank
the
you,
best.
everyone.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Have a nice day. Bye. Bye.